Okay, good morning. Good morning. Um, this morning, this scripture came to mind as I was laying in bed praying, and I was just thinking about, Lord, what do you want me to do today? What do you want the word to be today? Is there a word today that you want me to share? And one came to mind that I've done before, but I wanted to do a short on it to share it. I know that it's still very popular, is used a lot incorrectly. And so when I do this, it's not for the person who's using it incorrectly because that's between them and God. It's for the person who's hearing them use it incorrectly and not knowing the right interpretation. So the three parts of studying: observation, interpretation, application. Observation is simply what you see on the page. Interpretation is when you go a little deeper to find out what it means. You saw it, but now you got to go and find out what it means. And then application, of course, is now that you know what it means, you can abide by it, or you can, even in my case, if I'm teaching, now I can apply what I've learned because I've learned it correctly. I've got the correct interpretation. It's like if I give you a piece of paper and it says, es muy importante estudiar la Bíblica. You may be able to read that, but if you don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't be able to interpret it. So you go to Google Translate and then you type in what I said. And then now you know that when someone says, es muy importante estudiar la Bíblica, you know that it means that it's very important to study the Bible. Interpretation. So now you can act on what you know. So studying and reading are two different things, especially when it comes to the Bible. So without further ado, the scripture this morning is Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And I know when people use this scripture, they want to encourage you in some way, hey, life and death is in the power of the tongue. They want to encourage you to speak in a more positive manner and things like that. And it's cool to encourage someone, but as I always say, when you're using scripture, use it in the context in which it was written. That's why you have to do it in three parts so you get an understanding of what the scripture meant. So when I go into the commentary in the Bible, the background on the scripture, it says death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's the first part. It says of witnesses according to the testimony they bear. So death and life from the power of the tongue. If you got a witness on the stand and they lie, then they could cause something to go one way or the other. Death and life in the power of the tongue, in the power of what they say. Okay, of judges according to the sentence they pass. They might sentence you to death. They might sentence you to 10 years, 20 years. So it's in what they say. Teachers, according to the doctrine they preach. A lot of people are preaching false doctrine. Not my business, between them and God, as long as I do what I'm supposed to do. Of all men who by their well or ill speaking bring death or life to themselves and others. What you say sometimes, moving your lips, bumping your gums a lot can cause harm to another person. Some by their tongues, by the too free use of them. You like to talk a lot, or the falsehood they utter. You talk a lot and you lie a lot, or the cause of death to themselves and others. You can cause some issues for yourself and for other people. And some by their silence, by what you don't say, or by their prudent speech and prevalent intercession, secure or obtain life for themselves and other. Yea, judgment at the last day will proceed according to a man's words. And the last part, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof, that delight to be talkative, that love to use the tongue, whether it's in a good or bad way, whether you're using it for good or evil, you're going to eat the fruit of it, shall accordingly be recompensed, shall enjoy the advantages or disadvantages of it. So it's not like you can just speak life. We know that only God has control over life as far as in living and dying. If that wasn't the case, then I'm sure David would have spoke life, or for his son, who God told him was going to die, and he did die. So understand the scripture, that way you can use it correctly. That way you won't be telling people something and then they if you don't have the right interpretation, like I said, then how can they grow from it? How can you edify them if you have not told them what the scripture meant. First of all, if you haven't studied to find out for yourself. And I don't know a lot. I just believe in not coming forward with a word until you study. I believe that if you say you love God, you can't take out 5 minutes that I've spent so far just to look at the background of a scripture, but you love him. You're putting forth his words in in a fraudulent matter because you love him, but you don't take out enough time just to study it, just to look at it and just to study it. Because when you come before people or when you're trying to influence people in a way that can help them, you need to come forward with, you need to be 100. And if you don't understand it, don't come forth yet, Wait until you get a grip on it. That's it for today. God bless you.